is iRacing.
After a challenging endurance round at Phillip Island, punctuated by unfortunate incidents and mistakes all around, the drivers will now tackle a very different flowing beast, Zandvoort. Who will survive the chaos of multiclass here, and who will fall prey to the high curbs and higher tire wear? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the penultimate round of the iRacing IMSA Vintage series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lundgren, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Our director is Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A track recently renovated here in iRacing. To find out what makes this place so unique, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Circuit Park Zandvoort. This legendary track directly to the west of Amsterdam and a stone's throw away from the shore of the North Sea has seen more than half a century of racing history. After a brief period of being closed, it was rebuilt in the 90s and then given a huge facelift in 2019 to see the return of Formula One. It retained its 4.25-kilometer length and 14 turns for the Grand Prix course, while the other three versions also stayed mostly unchanged. But the biggest adaptations were the additions of steep banking at Hugenholtz and Luijendijk. The unusual progressive banking in Hugenholtz in particular stands out as it brings the oval racing staple to the twisty side of motorsports and has produced action-packed results. Meanwhile, Luijendijk's new camber means that this corner is now easily flat out in pretty much every car and gives even better chances to try and overtake into the famous Tarzan. That said, passing is notoriously difficult at this highly technical track. And while it's much slower than its original guise, it still has some frighteningly fast corners, including Schieblach. If you're brave, the Hans Ernst chicane can sometimes offer chances to sneak by someone, but it can often become a clumsy wreck if you're not careful. The amounts of cash poured into the upgrades certainly produce more than just a fresh coat of paint. The spectacular racing put on by everything from open wheelers to touring cars and sports cars is almost never dull. It's no wonder the Dutch fans come out in droves when the green flag waves here.
Well, this place has a storied history, and its renovation to make F1 a little bit more exciting has been very divisive. But Craig, how are the IMSA Vintage folks going to take this track today?
Yeah, like you say, the Monday changes to the track has opened up the speed, but the size of the track is still the Achilles heel here for Zandvoort. It is still a classic for these cars, however, because those camber corners will allow both classes to really get into a groove around here. They'll look for every bit of space around those tight and twisty middle sectors. And it's those sectors, especially at Rob Slottermatter, aka turn 4 to turn 6, that will cause a lot of the issues today. Now, on paper, on that track map, it looks like a quick kink on the straight. The elevation change will throw the drivers off, and that's the issue. You will not be allowed to get too wide action there on that part of the track. And then, of course, that also brings up overtaking, because in class, it will be a challenge. Look out for the moves into Hugenholtz, which, of course, is turn 3. Looking to turn 9. Looking to Hans Ernst, which is turn 11 in that chicane. Notice a common link here. All corners before the track tightens up. And for multi-class, the name of the game will be survival. Those GTOs will be glued to the mirrors around Slottermacher, as I mentioned, and Masters, which is, of course, turn 7-6, which is now Slovak. The age-old saying, GTOs cannot deviate. That'll be in full force today. This might be the tightest track they visit all season, Adam. That is saying something after they came to Thruxton.
Absolutely. Now, something that's very interesting is our points championship. Andres Valenteus leads Nick Makanos by quite a few points and is not out of reach yet. If Valenteus doesn't show up today and Nick wins both rounds, or rather this round and then gains points next round, he could catch him. But Valenteus is here today, so Nick Makanos' only chance is if Valenteus DNFs today. And then drop weeks, even if we take drop weeks into consideration, it shouldn't be an issue between the two of them. Now, Brendan Lim's 57 points back. He doesn't really have hope of catching Nick Makanos, even if Nick has problems today. Jacob Reed, though, is still within striking distance of Brendan Lim. And Christoph Lesniak definitely in striking distance of Reed, as well as Matthew Cockram. And that's another battle between Shady Ahmad, Gabriel Martinez, Fabian Gluth, and Farron Grau for 7th position. But what about the GTOs, Greg?
Well, in the GTOs, it's looking like even with 4 drop weeks into effect here, Johan van Hicks currently leading the championship, and it feels like that will be all she wrote after 2 wins in a row. Noah Lundberg will be P2, and again, we got to look at those drop weeks, and I think he might have no drop weeks to take. So that gives him an advantage over Andreas Schütter, who's in 3rd. And then look how close it is. Brain, Fries, and Cameron, just 2 points between the 3 of them, and they're just 10 to 12 points behind Schuster. So it's all to play for that final podium spot in the GTOs. And as you look on down, even still, more drivers at the bottom of the top 10 looking to have a chance to get bragging rights. I always like mentioning P11, Adam. Jamie Hamill-Smith, he's only 5 points behind Doug Cloud. This top 10 might not be the final top 10 at the end of the season.
Absolutely. We expect that to change over the course of the next couple of races. But let's talk about the race details today. It's round 11 of 12, so the penultimate round for these drivers. They've got 40 minutes out there and open setups. So they won't be taking a pit stop, and they can set up the car however they like or dislike. No spare vehicle out there, so if they go off and hit the barriers, they're going to have to live with that damage. A drive-through at 17 incidents and additional penalties after every 25 incidents, so they have a little bit of a cap there. We don't expect the drivers to pick up too many incidents points today. Now, in qualifying right now, Jacob Reed holds provisional pole position over Nick Makanos in the GTPs, and Joni Hagner, joining us once again, has provisional pole position over Juhani Kaminen. So those 2 Glacier Racing drivers back up to the front like we saw 3 years ago.
3 years? Is it really 3 years? We saw the Glacier guys doing some real big dominance out in the GTOs, and maybe a blast from the past on a classic track as well. Be interesting to see as we see. Well, if it's blue and it's yellow and it's got a number 1 beside it, it must be Valenteus. And lo and behold, it's Valenteus. And I am surprised. It's not a lot of drivers out there in the GTPs today, but he has decided he will go and qualify. Comes around that fantastic banked turn there at Hugenholz. And up here, look at this elevation change, and look how tight it was, as I mentioned it, into Schlottemacher.
Absolutely, and Andres Valenteus is the favorite to get pole position, but he did not have pole position last week, so it's entirely possible that one of the other drivers out there could pip him. Jacob Reed is here to have that battle. 118.6 is what Jacob set. Andres Valenteus is going to try and beat that. Here we see Austin Fari coming around the corner. Has yet to set, actually has set a qualifying time, currently in 7th position for the GTOs. Austin Farr coming around what is the final couple of corners here onto the long back straightaway with the extra banking that they added for the F1 cars. It means the GTOs can carry a lot of speed through here. We can expect to see a lot of passing in one.
Oh, a lot of passing, and you're going to have to make sure you get a real good run off that final corner at Leyendyke. Named after, of course, the famous Dutch IndyCar driver who won the Indy 500. And Valenteus will come across the line, and it is not pole position. Jacob Reed had pipped in, but he does have a chance for one more lap. He's got all the time in the world, so do keep eyes on that. Johan van Hicks, his day is done. He came home into P2 in the GTOs as Lundberg managed to get that. Another close qualifying in the GTOs. Cotasalo will come across one time for the Leyendyke corner. He'll come across with a 33.373. Puts him good enough for P7. But look how close that is. In the GTOs, you've got the top 3 in GTP separated by 3/10. You've got the top 6 in GTO separated by 3/10.
Absolutely. Very tight qualifying here as we see Andres Valenteus coming around. Currently in 2nd position, but the second lap is usually fastest. Now out here, we've got some pretty decent temperatures. Bo, it looks like Valenteus slowing down, so he's going to park it. He's not going to get pole position today. So once again, starting from 2nd position, just as he did last week. Noah Lundberg is currently in provisional pole position, and looking at the drivers who have yet to qualify in the GTOs, there isn't anyone who could really challenge him unless Ove Trangrade makes a miracle qualifying. There is Trangrade coming around the corners. He has yet to set his qualifying time with 47 seconds to go, and on his first lap, he could set a time, but this would be the only lap he gets in.
Could be a time, but we'll just keep eyes here as we see him coming around the corner. This coming downhill now. Look at the elevation change down into Hans Ernst chicane here. And you've got to try and make sure you get it more camber and cornered there. You can take a little bit of that curb and then a little bit of the exit curb here to not get an off-track not just hold on. I was looking at the event, did not see an off track for Valenteus. Actually, I did see an off track for Valenteus, so that's why he pulled off. One last corner to go. Look at the speed, look at the banking. Expect to see in multi-class, the GTPs have to wait a little bit before they can go over the top of the GTOs later. But a 33.9, a respectable first and only lap there for Trengarade, puts him 14th.
Absolutely, and that will take us to our grid for this race. It is going to be Jacob Reed on pole position over Andreas Valenteus, who's going to line up next to him. Nick Makanos is going to line up behind Reed, with Ivan Platten, last week's pole sitter, lining up behind Valenteus. Dustin Heroder starts off row 3 next to Gabri Martinez, with Christoph Lesniak and Brendan Lim on row 4. Dylan Freckleton in 9th and Fabi Leungbluth rounding out the top 10, with Shady Ahmad down in 11th position and Robert Plumley next to him in 12th. Matthew Cockram on row 7 and Eki Anderson next to him. And row 8 is Antonio Alvarez and Martin Jalas, with Logan Fitz, our last driver to set a qualifying time, and Zach Irvin, the only driver to not set a qualifying time, rounding out your 18 GTPs today.
We got 18 GTPs. It's going to be a little bit longer with the GTOs today. Noel Lundberg will be pole position, and look how close it was to him and Johan Van Hicks, as Van Hicks will be P2, Mickey Friesen just as close in P3, and Joni Hagner just as close in P4, and then it's Cameron 5th with Schuster in 6th. Cottasalo will take 7th, and Austin Farr will be 8th. Philip Lake makes his return again in 9th, and Doug Cloud rounds out your top 10. One more page, and another page after that. Seamus Power will be in 11th, with Josh Brain beside him in 12th. And then it's Forban Pollock in 13th, with Ove Trengrade, as we saw, 14th. Then Ian Haycox is 15th, with beside him will be Henry Morse in 16th. Shane Hawkins will take 17th with Emilio Dicciari, GTU leader, in 18th with Alejandro Caride, 19th, and Jan Rinklin in 20th. I do said there is one more page. Viamaki will take 22nd. Miguel Guillermo Paredes will take 22nd. Sorry, it's Viamaki 21st. DJ McCarvey will be the last at the time qualifiers in 23rd. And then the drivers in order of iRating, of course, Roman Bello, Max Wheeler, Carlos Fonseca, Jamie Hamill-Smith, Robert Nelson, Callum Kennedy, Adam Ross Phillips for your 30 GTO field and just 18 GTPs. Oh my, Adam.
Absolutely, 48 cars out here, and we haven't seen a split. It's not a split race, but we haven't seen a split between the classes like this in a couple of seasons, Craig, where the GTOs have had this much of a car numbers difference compared to the GTPs, and this really changes the complexion of how drivers handle traffic.
It's interesting. Ever since the Road America 500, where you and I were on the broadcast, we were saying, "Ah, man, half of the 3/4 of the field is GTPs, and then you've got half the GTOs compared to the GTPs." Ever since then, we've had more GTOs in the broadcast split than GTPs. But I can never really remember a time where we had almost double the GTOs to the GTPs, and this changes the game. This changed the game last week when it was 60 minutes. This is going to absolutely be a game of survival, as I mentioned. But I think really it's just going to be the top 10 are probably going to be on the lead lap for the GTOs. I hate to say it, because look at these cars here. There's not a lot of room. Look how tight they are side by side, Adam, coming here into Slottermacher. It's just going to be chaos.
Absolutely, and when the GTPs try to get past those GTOs, especially when they're having all these battles, they're going to be held up significantly. So this is probably going to be Valenteus and Reed in their toughest challenge yet to try and cut through the field. And we haven't seen Valenteus have to navigate such a dense GTO field in quite a few seasons. And it's only been a couple of seasons where he's had the dominance that he's had. So the question is this the day when he is at his weakest? Jacob Reed's still looking for that win over Valenteus in a one-on-one scenario for the first time this season.
Well, first time for a while. I don't think he'd actually done it before. I'm going to have to look back on that. But what's interesting, let's go back to what I said at the start of the race here, Adam. This track is tighter than Thruxton. When was the first time we saw Valenteus flustered? Thruxton.
Yeah.
What's the key here? I think we've just named it. Tight track, lots of traffic. I feel that Reed, with his ability to be faster on the brakes, which means he's not putting the same force in, I feel Jacob has that advantage through the traffic today. Something I can't believe I'm saying.
Yeah, it's very rare for anyone to have advantage in the traffic compared to Valenteus. Very interesting to see the drivers. The pace car goes quite slowly around this track, and the drivers, most of them just riding it out because our temperatures around here are pretty high. It's 71 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, but that's 99 Fahrenheit on track. So 22 Celsius in the air compared to 37 Celsius on track. So that track temperature is only going to rise probably by a couple of degrees. It is currently 12:40 p.m. virtual standard time, so we're not even at the peak of the day. We do have a little bit of cloud cover that you're seeing here, but expect the temperatures on the track to rise a little bit over the course of this race.
And not only that, the wind as well. At the moment, it's only about 8 miles now, 8 miles an hour from the south, which is basically just going to be a crosswind for most of the track. If that wind starts to pick up later in the race, you're going to see a lot of issues, especially here. Right now, they come to the banking here at Lyondike, it's going to be a side wind. So keep your eyes on that wind later in the race, Adam. It's going to be very crucial if we see some drivers lose control.
Absolutely. Now, this banking can shield them from the wind a little bit, but it is going to definitely affect them. Now, we're on to the back straightaway. That means that the pace car is going to pull off. The pace car pulls off quite early here. So that means that Jacob Reed will have a lot of time to try and make a jump, and you can see the field fanning out a little bit. There are not strict rules about staying in line, and Jacob Reed tries to get the jump on Valenteus, but can't quite do so. Valenteus with a good start, but not enough. But look at this, Nick McConnell with the draft, and Valenteus around the outside on the first lap. Does he have the tires to do it? The answer is yes. Valenteus is going to try and take the lead, and he does from Jacob Reed. What a pass!
What a pass in the GTO. The GTOs, we've had carnage in the first corner. We had carnage before the race went green, and it looked like Doug Cloud had a misshift, and Jacob Brain went into the back of him. He lost control, and he just started off a concertina effect. He's into the toes, I said. Van Hicks, not with the best of start for the GTO. We're looking at Cameron. He's not had a very good start either. But Austin Parr up 3 places already. And what about Shane Hawking? He's up 6.
Absolutely. So Noah Lindbergh continues to lead. He's trying to look to gain some more points on Van Hicks. Van Hicks, though, untouchable in the championship, even with even once we put the drop points back into it. Doug Cloud, there he is, trying to recover from that missed shift, down in 10th position. That's a rough start for him, and a rough start for everyone behind him too.
Yeah, Philip Lake got caught in that. Vera Mackey got caught in that as well. It's weird to see Philip Lake out there. I think Philip Lake actually may have got caught out in a separate incident. We're looking at the back of the field here. This is the number 37 car, Alejandro Caride, as he continues to battle on. He's had a really good start due to what happened. He's battling against Trengarade. Trengarade managed to avoid that crash, but you could see that damage might affect him. Losing a bit of time there as he comes on by side power, trying to battle Doug Cloud. Not working at the moment. Gonna have to just wait a little bit here. As you can see, the drivers are trying to get into some sort of position, because in about 2-3 laps, they're going to be getting this traffic shortly.
Absolutely. I'm sure Jacob Reed's kicking himself for letting Valenteus get ahead when he had the pole position. There is the wreck from Henry Morris as he spins across the track and collects the number 25 machine. I'm trying to see who that was, but absolutely just a really rough moment going into turn 1 under braking. I think one of the car behind him must have just gotten a little bit too late on the brakes and nudged him into the corner.
Just so unfortunate. Then again, everyone just trying to jostle the position. Now remember, Tarzan at turn 1 is a little bit of a cambered corner, and I feel that may have also just caused some issue for some of those drivers. They were all trying to find that one piece of real estate, and unfortunately it's like an auction. Only one person gets it, and this is what Valenteus also managed to do. He got it around the outside, so you rarely see it Tarzan bot as he takes that position. But here's Yoni Hagner, a name we haven't talked about for a while. The Glacier Racing is up to 2nd. This could be a little bit of a return here, but he has to beat the man that is kind of tough to beat in Noah Lundberg.
Absolutely. The 25 that was involved in that lap 1 incident was Philip Lake. He was in 10th position at the time, and now he's dropped all the way back to 25th. The first of the GTOs second of the GTOs who hasn't been to the pits yet. So an unfortunate moment for him as we ride on board with Yoni Hagner, Glacier Racing, and Dirty Torque Racing, who Philip Lake was a part of back in the day. Oh, we've had a gigantic incident on the backstretch with the GTOs. About 3 or 4 of them, starting with Robert Nelson in the 40 machine. Miguel Guillaume Palares, as well as Callum McKennedy, DJ McCabe, and Henry Morse, all having incidents on the back. That was a very, very odd moment there for the GTOs.
Yeah, it all started from Henry Morse. Henry Morse didn't get the line he wanted out the corner, but managed to get more throttled than what it looked like Pareles there. And what happened with Pareles was on the racing line. Henry just tapped the back of him. We'll see it in a moment. It was a mini pit maneuver. And again, tight track, nowhere to go, and some drivers just can't go. Cameron, save it! As Cameron goes a bit wide, he's trying to hold on to it. He's had to take a bit of a joker lap there. He's still alive, though. That's a real good recovery.
Absolutely, dropping back to 9th. That was a good recovery, but that's heartbreaking because as soon as you clip that outside, the outside grass there, you go on that ride that he went on. Now, granted, the heritage of the Audi GTO was that it was a rally car, so very comfortable out there in the gravel, and able to recover because of the all-wheel drive nature of the vehicle, but that's a rough moment. Let's take a look at what happened here with Henry Morse.
Yeah, I think Henry just got a bit too aggressive on the throttle there. There was the tap. There was a little bit of overlap, and no idea where you're trying to go if you're trying to avoid a crash there, but unfortunately, it's almost target fixation there, and that just caused it. Thankfully, though, Adam, it was just a 3-car wreck. It could have been more with how much that track could have been blocked.
I mean, when's the last time you saw an incident where the wreck ended and the cars were still in the middle of the road? Like, I kind of understand why the car went to the middle of the road, because usually a wreck will wash out to one or the other side. So that's a little bit of a surprise to see the wreck just park in the middle of the road.
I'm surprised at that, but I'm also surprised to see that the fruition, it's going to be lap 5 when these GTP leaders, hit the GTO traffic. Yes, it's going to be back markers, and it won't be another lap until they hit the real traffic, but this is going to be the first time they come through some traffic. We know Valentine, I know Valentine's done practice this week. I do apologize, the hiccups have just come. I do know he knows practice. He's going to do a late send, and Callum decides, I don't think I want to be part of this.
No, Callum misses turn 1 completely, and Jacob Reed and Valenteus nose to tail right now. They go through one of the most exciting corners in racing. It looks like the GTPs are deciding to take the high line through there today. At least these two are. Valenteus gets a much better launch off of the corner as Jacob Reed loses a couple of tenths, but he's still tight to the back, and it's only going to be a couple of turns before they get up to the rest of the GTO pack, and that GTO pack, as we've mentioned before, very, very long. It's right now 21 cars long because we've already had 9 cars with incidents in the GTOs today.
Well, we said it was going to be a battle of survival for the GTOs. We were thinking it was going to be when it came to multi-class traffic, because if you know how multi-class traffic works in any series, the first time by is the worst time by. But no, it has turned out that it's actually been just a little bit of, I wouldn't say aggression from the drivers, just a couple mistakes. None of these wrecks have happened by people being too aggressive to make moves. It's just people not being giving the space, not on purpose, but just a little bit too tight. And now Valenteus gets held up here, and Reed has to follow. And I think Valenteus might have got the better run there of that one car around Lyondike.
Absolutely. So just that one car affecting the battle just a little bit. Valenteus, he's going to get caught up a little bit behind Jamie Hamill-Smith on the exit of this corner. Now the real challenge is now they're going to start to get into the careful, complex negotiations of how they're going to be taking these corners with the GTOs also involved. So this is where things get the most complex, is this sweeping section here.
Yeah, you got to make sure you got to understand the GTOs have to turn in right pretty quickly here. And then on to the brakes, a little bit of hesitation there. Wheeler didn't turn in as much as early as some of the other drivers would do. He's still going to turn in. That's just an experience thing. And then the late braking down here into turn 9, and you can see it's worked for Valenteus but he had to do a little excuse me there on Jan Rinklin. They still keep side by side, together, sorry. They're not losing a lot of time to the rest of the field. Look at the rest of the field. Hiroda, Lesniak, Martinez, and Freckleton, and Ahmad, and Younglove all together here.
Absolutely, not Lim as well involved. So a lot of GTPs trying to look for opportunities here as they're starting to get into the GTO traffic. Still 7 tenths between Valenteus and Reed as they head onto the front straightaway, as these GTPs further back, all tucked in, trying to navigate their way past the first of the GTOs.
Yeah, through the first. And we got to look at Shady Ahmad. And I know I mentioned it about Milio Dechari into the GTU lead for the championship. Here's Shady Ahmad, who's leading the GTP Light But let's get an eye on to Tachari, because this is what he's got to deal with. He's got the rest of the field coming by him while he's also trying to fight Trengarade. He's lost that position to Trengarade going into Tarzan Box. Shady and Mad, as I said that, of course, the man, he's gone around.
Absolutely has gone around, and this was off of the back of Max Wheeler, who was taking turn 1 and just did not exit as quickly as Shady thought. So a little bit of a self-inflicted wound there for Shady Ahmad as he went off the back of Max Wheeler and spun.
Yep. Also had a moment. Oh, wow. A little bit of netcode issue there for Jacob Reed onto one of the drivers. In fact, it was 2 netcode incidents for Jacob Reed. He's okay. But by accident, 2 GTOs have been hit off the track here. I think one of them may have been Seamus Power, and one of them was Shane Hawkins.
Absolutely. So Valenteus and Reed both getting held up by different GTOs right now as they're up into the top 6, about to be the top 5. And Valenteus has started to get in that gap. He's got a couple of cars that are working as picks. And look at this, Jacob Reed! He thought he was going to go to the inside of Andreas Schuster and thought better of it. We're looking at Dustin Hiroder now in 5th position, trying to catch up to, oh my goodness, and there's that moment, Craig. We said that the GTOs have to take their line. The GTPs don't like it around the banking, and that doesn't make sense to me.
No, it does not make sense either. Now you see the problem now is that you let Valenteus come on by, get through the traffic. Jacob lost 2 seconds, and now he's lost P2, and it's gone from bad to worse for the man that we know as an expert in the open wheelers. But unfortunately, now he's going to have to get past Mucanos, and then he's going to have to try and find a way to get around to catch up to Valenteus. And you know what we talked about traffic? That's going to be very tight. And look at the way he's had to wait. These are the top drivers in GTO at the moment. He's had to do a little bit of waiting for these drivers to get that line, whereas Mucanos, he gets there first. He gets that position right away, and he's got the track position straight away.
Jorn Van Hicks tucked in behind Mickey Friesen right now, battling for the last position on the podium. Van Hicks at 4th position, Friesen in 3rd. Van Hicks trying to make sure that even though he's got a gigantic points lead over Lundberg, trying to reduce that number as much as possible just in case something should happen. Here's Kamenin right now in 8th position in the GTOs as well, battling with Ilkka Kodasalo in 7th.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and you would usually look to this and be like, right, if I'm Kodasalo, I'm going to have to, sorry, if I'm, I'm looking for a chance for a GTP to punch a hole through, and I'm Cameron, I want to try and use that. With the way these corners flow, these GTOs can't really do that around here. You're kind of looking for the slipstream. So Cameron could probably just pull out there. He does very slightly, but then you can't late brake. He's got to try it. But he's so close to Cotasalo, it's too much for him. But that is what you usually try to do. Use the GTP punching a hole to go through that hole. With the way this track is, I don't think there is, but there's a bit of a spin coming up ahead of Hugenholtz, and I believe that was Alvarez with Matthew Cockham.
Yeah, it was Antonio Alvarez who went around with Matthew Cochrane just battling through Hugenholtz, and they're able to recover from that. But there is Doug Cloud right now tucked in. He's still on his recovery drive. He's only made it up to 9th so far today.
Well, he is still +1 for the day. I think a lot of that is due to just the battle for attrition. Remember, we're down to just 22 cars on the lead lap for the GTOs when you think we started with 30. And a lot of these incidents haven't happened by drivers getting hit by the rest of the traffic. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We keep on board with Antonio Alvarez here, trying to catch up, trying to help and hope that the front of the GTO field helps him out here. But the GTO field, I'm looking at it, Adam, they are quite spread out right now. Usually the GTOs, you're looking at pockets of 3-4 cars. A group of 3 is in 10th position here. The leaders are basically out of slipstream from one another. I've never seen that this early in a GTO race.
Well, the GTPs have been cutting through the field quite effectively. We're seeing a pass here with Matthew Cochrane being passed by Fabian Newbluth, and Antonio Alvarez looking for a way by. He thinks better of making it 4 wide into turn 1. It was almost 3 wide there with the GTO of Austin Farr. But they thought better of it, and Fabian Newbluth able to make up that position. And Antonio Alvarez getting past Cochrane as well. Robert Plumley and Shady Ahmad looking on, trying to make up positions in this battle as well.
When was the last time we saw Robert Plumley in a GTP? Gonna have to look at the old stat sheet for that, or just dust off the old book, the handwritten book. Let's look at Antonio Alvarez here. He went for this move. Oh, it's a little bit ambitious. as we say that. Robert Plumley, as I just said, has just gone off on live, but that's a bit ambitious. You can't do that move there at Hugenholtz because of just the idea that the corner is designed to go high for a downforce car. And even if you did try to dive it in like that, you're going to have a lot of issues kicking up there. So that's happened for him. Unfortunately, you won't see these guys trying to make that move. Jacob Reed caught up to Mechanos. Mechanos, like Reed did earlier in the race, losing time to the traffic.
Yeah, well, so Mechanos actually has been losing time ever since they've been clear of the traffic. It was about a second separating Valenteus, Mechanos, and Reed. But now it's the gap between Valenteus and Mechanos is stretched out to about 2 seconds. It's clear that Reed is quicker in the clear air, but Mechanos was much faster through the traffic this time around. And so that's why Reed lost the position. And now he's trying to get it back from Mechanos because he's got a faster car in the clear. But unfortunately for them, with the amount of GTOs we have around this track, they're about to start catching up to traffic again.
Already? They're already there, and this is the corner that I circled as a chance to make a late move. Could not make it into Masters, and now they come to turn 9. Not a lot you can do in turn 10 now. Not a lot you can do as they come on down to the next set of corners. There is a GTO up ahead, which is going to compromise the exit of the corner. And the problem is with the way the chicane is at Hans Ernst, you can't even back off to get yourself a good run. You just have to just wait. But Jacob Reed taking it almost free wide and the door just closed. Jacob had a shot there to make that move. But as they came to Kumholm, there was nothing there for him.
And they've lost a second and a half on Valenteus this lap alone. Nick Mechanos going to take the inside line, which is the preferred defensive line, but we've seen Valenteus make a pass around the outside here. It's Jacob Reed's time to take a shot at it. Nick Mechanos has good traction on the inside, but Jacob Reed's able to stay alongside. We're not going to get up to Hugenholtz, which is where that bottom line can be effective, but Reed able to clear Mechanos before we get there and take the preferred high line to get the shot off the corner.
Not only did he clear him, he cleared him and then went straight to the racing line to cut any chance of a move there. And now he's got to, whoa, that's a late move onto Makabe. But he realized he had to do that. He realized, and it's not one that's going to get a lot of plaudits from the GTOs, but he realizes in the battle he is with Mechanos and the time he's lost to Valenteus, he has to make that move right now. And now more battles. This isn't a battle. This is a lap GTO, letting another lap GTO come by because that's Paul Pollock and Robert Nelson. So they're just getting by. That has held them up more. Another 3 tenths added to their time.
Absolutely. Now we're looking at the battle for 7th position. This is Gabriel Martinez, Dylan Freckleton, both trying to catch up to Krzysztof Lesniak in 6th position. So these 3 drivers who have been together through some of the GTO traffic, now trying to gain on one another as they come through the middle sector and into the final sector of the course.
Yeah, into this final sector, and it all starts here at Kumholm and then opens up to Lyondike. And you start to see that Freckleton's losing time to the rest of these guys. And it's just going to be a chance for Gabriel to see if he can catch up to Lesniak. He can't. Lesniak doing really good this season. And more hesitation from the GTOs. And that is something that the drivers are going to have to wrestle with. Even after 40 minutes, you're still going to see that hesitation from some of the drivers. It's going to be very interesting. I do say, I'm just looking at that timing tower. That has Reed managed to get some time as the 48 there of Zach Irvine goes off. It looks like Jacob Reed made some time on Valenteus.
Yeah, Jacob Reed, as I said, he's fairly quick through the clear stuff, and now Valenteus is getting held up in traffic. Let's see what happened here with Austin Farr. Farr in the GTP there in the pink Nissan. He's just going to get a little bit too close to the number 7. And send, rather, that was also Farr in the GTO, who gets sent around by the pink Nissan. So unfortunately for Farr, nothing he could really do there.
Nothing he could do, unfortunately. And Trengarade now trying to just drive on. He's trying to catch up to Ian Haycock, and he might get a chance here as the traffic just starts to bunch up ahead of them. But he's still too close away. And again, +2 for the day is Ian Haycock, is Trengarade. As the Chari, we keep looking onto him. He's +4 for the day. A lot of these positions they've gained due to the incident earlier in the race, but the Castrol-inspired livery from the Chari really working for him. And again, I talked about that GTU championship. Some of the drivers have really been happy to hear about the sub 3K drivers championship here in both series. The GTUs currently leading for them at the GTOs or the GTOs, of course, Dechari by 17 points to Jamie Hamill-Smith. You look where Hamill-Smith is today. He's in 20th. This looks a really good tie for Dechari. And Cockerham continues to battle Plumley.
Absolutely, and Cockerham is the GTU leader in the GTP class. Shady Ahmad is second position to Cockerham, so Matthew Cockerham currently holding that position ahead of Shady Ahmad, so this is a battle for position in the points between Cockerham and Ahmad.
Yeah, and it's good to see them both having the fight here. They haven't really had much fighting on track. I know earlier in the season when the races split, and when they split later in the season, of course, you do get to see these guys because of the iRacing change. They say sometimes one of them's in the top split, one of them's in the second split, or they're both in the second, or they're both in the first. So they don't really get a chance to really battle the two to each other. This is the best time for them, and this is the best time to say Jacob Reed has caught up to Valenteus. Valenteus almost had to take it 3 wide there as he's trying to get around now a lapped GTP. All of a sudden, it's a little bit of squeaky bum time at the halfway point for Valenteus.
Absolutely. Now they're going to have to get past the last. Now it's going to be Jacob Reed's turn to get past Logan Fitz. Fitz does not want to give up this position, so it's going to hold up Jacob Reed significantly. He's going to take the outside line as Fitz is thinking about taking the inside away from Doug Cloud. Couldn't quite do it this time. But look at this. Valenteus also got held up by Ilka Kodasalo, so Reed didn't lose that much time. He only lost about 2/10. With that hold up from Fitz. So now Jacob Reed still on the back of Valenteus as they're lapping both GTOs and GTPs this time through traffic. Here's Cockerham once again battling with Ahmad, who's been able to make the pass.
Yeah, Shady managed to make the pass. He managed to make it, guess what, around the outside of Tarzan bug. But every time I've been saying it, it's the camber corner at Tarzan. You don't see it in the real world nowadays with the drivers that are able to go around the outside. What, we've seen 3 overtakes around the outside in these GTPs? It's almost like this track wasn't designed for cars with ground effect downforce, but they're making it work out there. And for Ahmad, that's a real good position to make because he's able to get some clear air between himself and Cockerham. And now you look at Gabriel Martinez, he's very close to to Dylan Freckleton. I was looking at because Brendan Lim getting caught up in traffic. But again, another car just holding them up there, and another car. And really, no offense to Gabriel there, you know the GTOs are going to go low there. You have to be prepared to go high. He's into the pits.
Yeah, so possibly a little bit of damage, maybe an incident point issue, or maybe some fuel for Gabri. We'll have to take a look as we go back with Valenteus. Now, for those who want to do some math while they're watching today, Matthew Cockerham is ahead of Shady Ahmad by 4 points, and it is 1 point per position below 5th position in each class. So keep that in mind. Look at this, Jacob Reed being held up significantly by traffic. He's lost a good second and a half already and almost sent off track. He is sent off track by the battling cars.
Now, remember, it's not a mandatory blue flag here on iRacing. It's an advisory. But he's lost 2 seconds there. And again, the problem you've got with Yalis there, who he hit, he's battling Zach Irvine right behind him. They're in a battle themselves, so you've got to respect that those two are going to be fighting as well. But you've also got to respect that you've got P2.
Yeah.
And you've got to see it. Yes.
Oh, Shady Ahmad's gone around.
Yeah, Ahmad's gone around. That's not good. He loses time to Cockerham, and he's a second behind now. But
there was a parked GTO in the middle of the track. It was Alejandro Silva Caride who was literally stopped on the apex of the corner and caused an incident, multiple incidents at the back of the pack, including Shady Ahmad and I believe, I'm trying to see who the other driver was, but it was another GTP who hit him. So unfortunately, he did not take a tow soon enough.
Yeah, did not take it. I don't think he was able to take a tow. We'll look at that later. We're on board with Mickey Friesen as he's on board. I'm not even going to make any fun today, Mickey. You're in a really tight spot here for a race, and it's going to be oh so tough for you out there today. He's doing a real good job to hold off Van Hick. I almost just cursed the man as even Platon just come by, get a little bit of a reaction. I tell you what, he doesn't show reactions on his face, but I saw it right there. His eyes, look how much they just went wide there at him. It's not a very happy chappy right now.
Well, he can't move his face because of how close his microphone is, so the eyes are the only thing that we can see that allows us to get a picture of how he's reacting. Joram Van Hicks, though, putting some heavy pressure on Friesen. Joram has been stuck behind Friesen for most of this race, trying to get this position. He just can't seem to get the better exit off of Friesen and to make the pass.
Yeah, and you're going to think this might be one of his worst results of the season for Van Hicks. Gonna have to do some quick maths, and yeah, it would be.
Oh, look at all the gravel. Look at all the gravel in the apex of the corner there.
And that's been like that since lap 1, Adam. Some of these drivers just unfortunately just going a bit too hot there into the chicane at Hans Ernst and just kicking up some of the gravel. And of course, it's right on that racing line. So the first 5 cars that will come by it are going to have a loss of traction coming through that gravel. Now is this the move? No GTPs nearby, but Van Hicks decides against it. And a mistake there from Friesen as he goes on. I feel that could have been a shot to make the overtake there.
Absolutely, I would have gone for it. Now, maybe I would have been a fool to do so, but I think Mickey would have given it to me in that situation. Oh my goodness. That was Dylan Freckleton almost getting into the side of Mickey Friesen. Friesen has had bad luck with GTPs through this section of the course.
Yeah, and it is a tough corner because I understand the GTPs, they want to make that move, but they get on the throttle a bit too early, and the understeer of the throttle at the Hugenholz there just causes them to just kick up a little bit. So that is what happened. It's unfortunate, not on purpose. Now, this was the incident with Karaid. Now, I believe he gets clipped there by one of the drivers. Now, he does have his wheels back, and he's not braking. He's rolling the car, and there's Shady and Mad. He's trying to avoid it, and yet that's basically on the racing line, and there's not a lot you can do about it. And I do feel this is a good indication of, remember we were talking about that wreck where the cars were in the middle of the track because you expect them to roll? That's why, because you should be locking your brakes down there.
Absolutely. We're taking a look now at Fabian Jungbluth, who's in a battle with Brendan Lim and Antonio Alvarez. Alvarez tucked very close in behind Jungbluth. They go past Yoni Hagner in that second position. He's only 1 second behind our leader. Actually, I believe that was Kaminen. But Yoni Hagner is only 1 second behind our leader, Noah Lundberg. He's finally closed that gap to within the good draft distance. So he's got an opportunity to try and catch up to the back of Lundberg and make a pass.
Yeah, we've been watching Jungbluth trying to catch up to Brendan Lim. Alvarez was right behind him, and Alvarez kind of got a little bit wrong going into Tarzan there, but manages to collect it all together, and more traffic on by. Now the traffic has to turn right here, and Jungbluth gets on by. In fact, the traffic holds to the left, so that's going to be helpful for the drivers. But look at the set! Mickey Friesen almost just got collected from Brendan Lim, and for a moment I thought that was going to be a crash for the unluckiest man in the GTOs.
Absolutely, just a really rough moment there for Friesen. He was able to see the traffic and snuck on by, so a good move there for Friesen to hold on to that position and to not cause an incident with Brendan Lim. He lives to fight another day, and Van Hicks still trying to find his way through. Maybe Van Hicks is short on fuel. Maybe that's why he's deciding not to pass Friesen.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be short on fuel, but I feel like he's just waiting for the right opportunity. He's just holding on for that moment. And again, it could just be a case of maybe I just wait for that last moment. 13 minutes and some change left to go, or 13 and a half minutes left to go. We're on board once again with Van Hicks, and you've got to feel if he gets a good run out of here, he may look for it, but he's 4 tenths behind. 4 tenths is not really a gap, even with how long this straight is, that you're able to do a lot here. So I feel that this is where he'll just take a quick rest, maybe just a little bit of a lift, and he does. Shady and Mad has had a moment out there, though, and Shady and Mad is towed, and that's big for the GTP lights, because I believe that could be losing to Matthew Cockerham as we keep on board with Johan Van Hicks. And as I keep on looking at the timing tower, you can see the timing tower. Valenteus close up now with Jacob Reed. This is Shady and Mad. Does he just go a bit too hot? He went a bit too hot into the corner. And I feel like he may have just decided that's all for me today. And it is. We go back on board with Van Hicks. This is the closest battle in the field. Sands the lead for the GTPs, but nothing's happening at the moment as Van Hicks continues to get close on by. And you just got to feel right now he's just waiting for that opportunity, and 3 laps ago he had the opportunity to try and make that lead change, but not lead change, but that P3 change, because that would be vital for him out there today, just to really just solidify his place in the championship. His worst points haul in a race, 18 points, which is a P4. So this is his. So when you think he's been on the podium on all but 2 races he competed in this season, just goes to show how strong he has been.
It's interesting because I'm taking a look at the lead of the race, Craig, and Jacob Reed within a second of Valenteus, proving that his race pace is quicker than Valenteus at this stage of the race. So very interesting developments going on here about who's got pace in what sections of the course. There you see him going through the gravel of that hairpin there, but they're about to catch up to the traffic again, and that's where Valenteus has been shining today.
He hasn't, and that's one thing, because Reed's been able to really turn that screw and make some positions up there using the traffic advantage, because Valenteus is getting held up. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does when they come on by, and I feel they'll have one more time through the traffic once they get through here. But look at it. Reed has to really take a late move, has to go around the outside of 2 cars, and you then try to find the inside of 1 car, and he loses no time to Valenteus. Even with another car coming up, he's still in a good position.
Absolutely. He'll sweep around the outside of Shane Hawkins here, beat him before Shane washes out to the outside of the corner, and now Valenteus very nimbly gets past Ian Haycox. Jacob Reed will take the inside away from Haycox here, giving Haycox enough room to get to the apex after his braking. And so now, look at this, Reed right on the back of Valenteus, as Valenteus is up to Trangerade, Power, and Cloud. We're all battling for the bottom of the top 10. Valenteus has to go around the long way around the corner, while Reed able to hang on to the normal racing line. He should get to the inside of Trangerade here. Valenteus has to wait for Cloud and Power, and here we go. It's nose to tail again for Reed and Valenteus.
Yep, now the cars behind, Power and Doug, they're going to have to realize this, but Jacob couldn't get by quick enough, and wide goes Doug. They're going to go 3 wide coming into Kumholm here. Can Seamus make that move onto Cloud? He can. We're going to be on board with Reed. We're going to be off board with Reed. As those two went side by side, Cloud holds onto it, but now this is where Reed has to start thinking calm, because Valenteus is going to get another car between them, but he's had to really work for it. Jacob hasn't had to overwork the car. He's just had to take a normal line, get to it. Can Valenteus get past far coming into Hugenholtz? He can. Jacob's just going to take the rock and roll. He's going to roll it. He's going to get out to the outside. Loses no time. This is real good, smart, calm, patient traffic management here from Jacob Reed with 9 minutes to go. This is going to put the pressure on Valenteus.
Absolutely, and Reed is not looking urgent. So this is a very good decision making from Reed, because he knows that they're likely going to have one more time through the traffic as Valenteus gets held up at the apex by Schuster. He just took it in a little bit too deep, thought Schuster was going to roll through the corner a little bit wider. But now Reed able to come right back onto the rear wing of Valenteus, closing in on that gearbox. He's the closest he's been since the start of the race.
Closest he's been. And let's talk about the one thing that is at stake here. Not anybody's really battling for it, but it is something that we look at. This could be the perfect season over for Valenteus. First time he's really been pushed at Thruxton. This is the battle we've been wanting for a couple seasons. Jacob is starting to attack Valenteus. It may not look it, but you think to yourself, if the cars keep on getting held up, and look at the late send from Valenteus, he realized he had to make it, but I feel like he's overcooked it there. He may have a bit of a hot tire issue right now.
Absolutely. So Jacob Reed now, he's definitely got rear hot tires, and we know that iRacing has been talking about how the rear tires on the current tire model retain a little bit too much heat, and it makes it challenging. This is something I've been saying ever since we've got the new tire model on these vehicles, Craig, is that once you spin those rear tires, you have to live with that for a good 3 or 4 laps. And that's a real challenge for the drivers to do. And so Reed, he's used to doing it. He tends to spin up the rear tires a little bit on the faster, more high-speed tracks. So he's definitely used to how to adapt to that issue. But Valenteus is going to have to go a long way around Lundberg, our leader in the GTOs, and this is going to hold him up again. But Reed still 7/10 behind.
Yeah, but Reed's going to get held up here at the hands hurts. He can't make the send at the moment. We're looking at Dylan Freckleton. He actually made the send. We're looking at Dylan Freckleton. I think he may have had a bit of a hardware failure there, because that was never a move you go for. I think he was trying to get out the way, because that looked to me that was a lot of issues. Mind you, he may have been tapped as well. Not entirely sure. But it didn't look like that was an on-purpose send there, just with the nature of the car. Reed did get by. He had to make it tight. He stayed within the slipstream. That's important. But now it's all about speed. I say that. They got back markers to go by.
Yeah.
My prediction of another time through the traffic is true.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's true. There is traffic 100% of the way around this track right now. There's one small gap of about 2 seconds that the drivers will be in clear air here for right now up until 19th place Robert Nelson. They also have Eki Anderson in 12th place with the GTPs that they're going to have to get by. And then there's another gap between Eki Anderson and Brendan Lim in the GTOs. So we had a big wreck in the GTPs between Robert Plumley and Brendan Lim.
And that's not what you want to see. We lost one of the three guys in that little battle.
This was on the gravel.
It's on the gravel. We'll have a look at that later.
Yeah, it was purely gravel. Brendan Lim got into the gravel on the track and absolutely punted, got into the back of Gabriel Martinez. That was a very odd incident.
Well, we're on board with these two. We'll get a picture-in-picture for sure later on, but we got to keep our eyes on what happens here because the traffic just continues. They've got fresh air right now. Eki Anderson is the only GTP, the only traffic they've got to come by, and this is really good for Valenteas because Anderson will give him a little bit of a tow. So that means Reed cannot utilize this. And very good. He slows down right away. A thank you from Valenteas. Eki Anderson holds off there, and you've got to feel that's the right thing to do. He's not fighting anybody. He's in P10, but he just realizes, but wide goes Jacob Reed. He couldn't make an advantage out of Tarzan, but he can lose a lot of time. That was half a second he lost there.
Here's what happened with Plumley. Plumley goes through the gravel and he spins and hits the outside wall. And then we have Gabriel Martinez, who also does the Brendan Lim, who does the exact same thing. That's all just due to gravel on the track. This is the first time in this series that I've seen gravel on the track cause 2 spins.
Well, not just 2 spins. I can't remember the last time I saw an iRacing a patch of gravel cause 2 separate incidents in the same moment. That was very weird. That was almost like you put the Stepstone Sun, or you put some of the comedy music on. I just felt like it was something for the iRacing not top 10 with what happened there. Very weird. As you see more cars come on by, Jan Renklin, the next GTO by, they do get a small gap after he comes here, then about a 4-second gap. Then they got 3 cars.
I mean, gravel being slippery, you can't complain about the realism there at all. But look at this. Valenteas has to take the corner a little bit shallow. Reed got a better run through it. He's got an advantage, and they've got 2 GTOs up ahead that they're going to be catching on the exit of Tarzan. Valenteas has to take the defensive line for the first time today, and Reed is going to try and do it around the outside. It's a repeat of lap 1, but this time with Reed on the outside, Valenteas with better traction, but they're still side by side. Who's going to have the better line? It's going to be Reed, who makes the pick of the GTOs. Valenteas has to drop into 2nd position.
Has to drop brilliant by Reed there. He realized what he had to do, and he held that line even though he was losing the advantage because he had to commit to the pick move. And Valenteas had to do a bit of a lift there with Jamie Hamill-Smith just staying to the track. And now this is Valenteas with 4 minutes to go, having to hope for some traffic. And I'm looking at him. I see no traffic. I see 1, 2, 3 cars, and 2 of them are GTPs.
This might be the break of the streak. Jacob Reed just has to hang on to it in front of Valenteas. I say that like that's easy. Valenteas is the most dominant driver in both classes that we've seen ever in this series, and Jacob Reed is now has the job to do to try and keep the most dominant driver who has the best record behind him. This is going to be an adventure.
Do not go anywhere for the next 3 minutes. In fact, why would you go anywhere for the next 3 minutes? Because this is the battle of all battles. Van Hicks is still trying to battle Friesen for P3 in the GTOs. That's the only battle we're missing right now on screen. But more traffic works for Jacob. And Valenteas has to go for the hotline and have to try and make the move, try and use the slipstream. But it's all for naught because, again, I look at the traffic map here, Adam, and I feel the last lap will be the lap. And they're going to have to be very careful because I feel they're going to have this lap with no traffic, and then it's going to be 1 lap to go, or 2 laps to go, or it's going to be a very, very fiery finish.
Valenteas very, very loose off of Hassenbach, but kept his foot on it. He knows he can't lose much time to Reed. I can just imagine a NASCAR spotter saying to Reed, all right, you're clear, hit your marks. Nobody, clear out front, hit your marks, and just trying to get Reed into a place of zen for these last couple of laps so that he can he can be as fast and effective as he's been up to this point, catching up to Valenteus. He can't make any of those sliding mistakes that he'd made previously. But this stage of the race, Craig, the tires are exhausted. It's still 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 Celsius on track. They've been through gravel. They've been sliding around the track all day. It's a real challenge to keep the rears underneath you right now.
It's been a real challenge. We'll get back to that because the gap is starting to expand a little bit as Van Hicks gets onto the back of Friesen. And stop me if I've heard this before. These two having a nice little battle out here onto the track. Not a lot of places to make a move here. They'll come to Schlevlach. My pronunciation for that corner is bad. Then they'll hit to the Masters into turn 8. This is one of these places where you can make a late move. Not into Masters, but into turn 9. But look how close Van Hicks is. It can't be a late break move here. He's going to have to wait. And again, we go back to that question, Adam. When he had a chance to make the overtake, why didn't he?
Absolutely. He takes a look to the inside this time around. We're on to the final couple of laps of this race. And so Jorn Van Hicks looking for a way by now. So in a way, he's kind of paying for not trying to make that move earlier, but maybe he thought that he wouldn't be able to, Friesen would be able to hold it around the outside. Look at how tight they are. We're taking a look at the lead battle as well of the GTPs that are nose to tail right now because Jacob Reed has had to do a little bit of traffic navigation through Shane Hawkins and Philip Lake, but that's going to separate just a little bit on the exit of this corner. Jorn Van Hicks, though, with a good run off of the final corner. You can see the difference in the speeds as they shift, and look at that. That's Mickey Friesen, who had to take an unoptimal line on the exit due to the GTP, and here comes Jorn Van Hicks around the outside. And is he going to be able to hold it out there? It's been hard to do with the GTOs today. And look at that. Friesen is not able to get the run off the corner. Van Hicks holding that position. He's going to hold it into the next corner. No, he's not. It's still side by side as they hit Hatzenbach. And now Friesen able to get by and Schuster having to wait.
Yeah, I had to wait. And I think as well, Friesen was going to try to look for an over-under. Could not make it. Leaders on the final lap, though, and I feel Valenteus just got a little bit of a wobble coming off the throttle of Tarzan. I feel that might be all she wrote. The traffic is still there for Jacob Reed. In fact, he's going to look up ahead. There's two cars almost going side by side, and they split up all of a sudden. Reed has to take an advanced move, has to take another reactionary move. He's safe. Now, what about Valenteus? Valenteus doesn't know where he's going, and he has to just wait up. Tringer is going to go wide, and that just felt like, again, be predictable, stick to your line. Valenteus didn't know where to go.
No, and Trangere didn't know where he was going to go either, and that lack of communication caused the gap between the two of them to grow. Jacob Reed now having to go on the outside of Austin Farr. They've got Yanni Kaminen up ahead. Those two are battling for position, so neither is going to want to lift that much, but Valenteus 1.5 seconds behind. Is this it, Craig? Is this the end of the streak? Only a couple more corners to go.
Just a couple more corners to go. I've got my eyes lit up like it's the meme when The Undertaker lost a streak. And it feels like that because finally, on race pace alone, Valenteus is beaten.
Jacob Reed out of the corner for the final time. He'll take his first win over Valenteus in multiple seasons, and you can see him move that car around. He's stoked about that battle. Valenteus' streak is broken. He had won every race that he had entered in both classes this season, and Valenteus with a respectful move up to the side. What a race between Reed and Valenteus today.
Canos is going to come across the line. He's going to get that P3. 21 seconds behind Jacob Reed. Hey, that just goes to show the pace those two up front were doing. But he gets a respectable P3. In fact, the top 5 never change positions in the GTPs. So very nice to see. We'll get to the GTOs very shortly because Noah Lundberg, he's still got half a lap to go, Adam. He's just coming up to the hands of Ernst Chicane. But you've got to feel that he's still sorted out for the lead. Joni Hagner sorted out for P2. I'll tell you what, though, it feels like Mickey Friesen, he hasn't heard no bell ring yet.
Absolutely. Mickey Friesen's still 8 tenths behind Van Hicks coming up to one of the final braking zones as we saw Noah Lundberg going through the final 2 corners of the race. He now just has to navigate a little bit of traffic who's going to want to sneak by, but Noah Lundberg coming off of the final corner. A good race from him, solid from start to finish, able to put the gaps on Joni Hagner through the traffic, and Noah Lundberg crosses the line and wins in the GTOs. You can see Joni Hagner coming home in second position, and Jorn Van Hicks is going to hold on for third spot over Mickey Friesen.
Yeah, very important battles there as well. Austin Farr, he's going to be trying to, well, he actually already finished. He was trying to catch up to the back of Cameron. Could not make that move as Mickey Friesen comes on by. Also, key one as well, Emilio Dechari managed to beat Jamie Hamill-Smith. He's got one hand, not one arm, he's got one hand, I feel, on that GTU championship.
Absolutely. So let's go through the results here. A lot of attrition today. Jacob Reed takes home the first win over Andreas Valenteus since, goodness, I think about 2.5 seasons ago. Valenteus coming home in second position, finally beat by Jacob Reed. Nick Makanos comes home 23 seconds behind, has not had a good day of traffic today, with Ivan Platten fourth position, only a second and a half behind Nick Makanos. Dustin Hiroder comes home in a distant fifth, with Christoph Lesniak providing him company 3 seconds behind. Fabian Jungluth and Antonio Alvarez are the last drivers on the lead lap. Then it's Matthew Cockram in 9th position and Eki Anderson rounding out your top 10. Gabri Martinez, the last driver to finish on 1 lap down. And then we've got Zach Irvin, who finishes 2 laps down by himself, with Martin Gallis 3 laps down, joined by Logan Fitz. And then it's Dylan Freckleton 5 laps down, Robert Plumley and Brendan Lim 6 laps down, and Shady Ahmad wrecked out midway through the race.
Now, I have done a quick look here, Adam. The last time Valenteus did not win in a GTP was the end of Season 1. That just goes to show you. So it has been a little bit quite soon, but we'll get to the GTOs now, because it was the Noah Lundberg show. He drove fantastically from flag to the light. He will take the victory away from Joni Hagner, who made up 2 positions to overtake Van Hicks and Friesen, who finished 3rd and 4th, respectively. Andreas Schuster will be home in 5th. Yanni Cameron in 6th, and it's Austin Farr in 7th. Ika Costa-Salo will be 8th, with Ove Trengere up 5 places to 9. Doug Cloud started 10th. He finishes 10th. To the second page, and it is going to be Ian Haycox, who's up 4 places to 11th, and Shane Hawkins will be up 5 to 12th. And then it's Philip Blake. What a recovery that was, the 13th after the lap 1 incident. Seamus Power will be 14th, and then Emilio Dechari, as we talked about, 15th. And Jamie Hamill-Smith didn't set a qualifying time, makes 11 places up into 16th. Carlos Fonseca smashes his way into 17th. Jan Rinklin will take 18th. And Robert Nelson up 9 to 19th, with Callum Kennedy also up 9 to 20th. Now, these drivers are drivers, including those 2 who had some issues out there and laps down. One of them as well, DJ McCarby, who finished 3 laps down to Noah Lundberg in 21st. And Miguel Guillermo Perales finished a few laps down as well in 22nd. Forbin Pollock will finish in 23rd. Then Alejandro Carrad will be 24th. Henry Villamaki will be the first retirees in 25th. And then it's Max Wheeler 26th, Henry Morse 27th. Roman Bello will be 28th, Adam Phillips 29th, and Josh Brain down in 30th.
You weren't wrong. The last time Valenteus did not win in a GTP was when Jack Wells won. That was the round 12, I believe, of the Season 1, because Season 1 had 13 rounds. So, yeah, but before that, he was undefeated for the entirety of Season 4 when he raced in the GTP. So, just that one race had spotted his record, and this race is another one that spotted his record. So it's one per season so far.
Yeah, you get your 1, but of course that's very interesting though when you look at it when it comes to, do they have any drop weeks left? I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be very crucial. I think the perfect season, once again, I don't think there's anybody that can be like the Miami Dolphins in the NFL. No champagne corks popping off here. I think we all wanted to see that, just to see someone dominate like he has, but that's just 1 win. You got to do it a bit more than once if you want to try and beat Valenteus for that championship, I feel.
It looks like we do have a driver who's going to talk to us today. It's Phil Lake. Phil, who's been in and around the lake for quite a while in the IMSA Vintage series back when it was called Camel, and joining us again for this season. Phil, it's been a while since we've talked to you. It's been a while. It's been great to see you over the last couple of rounds, joining us once again in the GTO.
Yeah, it's been nearly 2 years, I think. So, yeah, it's fun to be back. I'm just kind of using this season as a little warm-up for the next season, so yeah, hopefully I can get a little bit further towards the front.
Absolutely. We've had a couple of... realistically, it's been relatively close to when you joined. The rounds seem to have been getting pretty chaotic with the traffic recently, especially the previous 2 rounds. It felt like this round was not nearly as dramatic, but at the same time, it was not quite the easiest round for you, was it, Phil?
No. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the first corner to see what happened, but obviously I got hit, and and then it was fun coming through the field. The mid pack is a lot stronger than when I was here before, so it was harder to make progress. Once I got up into sort of the top 15, those guys are really quick, so it was a lot of fun battling with everybody. Yeah, like you say, the traffic was okay. This is a hard track, I think, for either class to not lose time. So the Nissans have to force their way through a little bit. You just have to be ready to make some space for them, because there's not many places they can pass easily. Other than through the S's, sometimes they get you timed perfectly and you just don't lose any time, and it's really nice. But other than that, it's tricky.
Next week, for the final round of the season, we head to the longest draft track that we have. It's the Circuit de la Sarthe for Le Mans. That's a very different race than this race or the last couple. What's your strategy headed into that race?
Yeah, with draft races, I usually try to just kind of position myself somewhere, like if I can get near the top 5, and just sit in the top 5, not take too many risks, and then when there's 1 or 2 laps to go, you go for it like any other race, where if you see an opportunity, you take it. And then it's with Le Mans is a little bit interesting, because you're sort of positioning yourself. You don't necessarily want to be in the lead halfway around the last lap, so it's really just comes down to the second half of the last lap. So yeah, that should be interesting.
Well, Phil, thanks for talking to us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Just you guys. It's good to. I've been dipping in and out of the broadcast, so it's good to hear the familiar voice of Adam throughout, and you guys doing a great job as you always have.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Phil. That was Phil Lake. He finished in 13th today in the GTOs, joining us after 2 years. Taking a break, and it's good to see him back. And that's going to close us out for today. We want to give a big thanks to the team today, Craig, Daniel, and Dougie. And we want to, Craig, Christian, and Dougie. We want to make sure to check out our social media and website and merchandise store. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As mentioned, next race is at Le Mans. That's June 7th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And next up for us on GSRC is the Skip Barber Race Series there at the Charlotte Roval. That's tomorrow at 5 a.m. Eastern, so don't want to miss that one. That should be very intense for the Skip Barber cars. And you also don't want to miss the other races that are also shown here on the scene, including the Major Series, GP Legends, and the Porsche Owners Cup as well. And we hope you've enjoyed joining us today as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you, and we hope to see you back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.